But I want to talk about 4th of July. I want to talk about 4th of July because it's something that happened yesterday, and it's something that I think is important for a lot of people to hear. Because, man, I got thoughts. So, we have this constant discussion about what America is, who we are as Americans, and what the 4th of July really means. And a lot of people will say freedom. Other people will go off and be like, we will not celebrate the 4th of July this year because of all of the bad and all of that. And other people will stand proudly and say, despite all of that, we love America. And some people even go further beyond and they say, America has done nothing wrong. I love America so much. And I'll give you my take. America is a story of great pioneers with some tough baggage to carry. We go back to the 1700s when America was first being really solidified. There had been some tensions during the 7 Years' War and taxes and all of that. We know the story. We grew up with the story. But the 1700s, the Constitution, Declaration of Independence, Constitution, that type of stuff, sort of the initial definitions of America. And the people that wrote these things were pioneers of their time. They took Enlightenment era ideas, philosophy as a whole, and they made it into actual legislation. We were one of the first countries to do that. And at the same time that we talked about freedom, and we talked about separation of church and state, separation of powers, and we talked about how every man should be free, we had ships of slaves coming to America. Terrific, brilliant pioneers, heavy baggage. How do we reconcile that? We fast forward 1800s, antebellum era. We have some crazy innovations made. We have the cotton gin, that steamroller, how we start doing farming, especially in the South. We have in the North innovations in how factories work and how we employ people instead of just making stuff in our homes. Crazy innovations by crazy, brilliant people. And at the same time, we have people in Congress shooting each other because of their right to own slaves. Brilliant pioneers, crazy baggage. How do we reconcile that? Fast forward, 1940s up until about the 1980s. Crazy ideas are happening around the world. Dictators spewing out hatred and evil, throwing away any sense of hope for marginalized groups. And the United States fights against these powers. We have brilliant generals, Eisenhower, people like that. Great leaders, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And at the same time, as time goes on, we have leaders that deny and excommunicate citizens based on their beliefs. We have groups of people that are marginalized and hurt simply because of the way that they were born. We have fear that goes through the American public based on the people that are living right next door to us. Great, amazing pioneers, tough baggage. How do we reconcile that? And now we're here. We're here in the modern day. Feels good, man. I'm in my room. Got an air conditioner. American culture still permeates throughout the entire world. I have the ability now to speak to you in a camera and it broadcasts everywhere. Anybody can click on this video, on this broadcast. We have the highest GDP out of any country, anytime. We have brilliant innovations in modern medicine. We have continuing strides in trying to make our country better for everybody. And at the same time, our most marginalized groups can't even get their Social Security consistently when they ask over and over. Great, amazing pioneers in the world. Hard to swallow baggage. Our politicians and the people at top have a huge responsibility that we have entrusted them with our vote for. They have a responsibility to keep us moving and keep us thriving in the direction that we're going. So hopefully, when I'm gone and when you're gone, America is 15 times better than what it was when we were here. And they have that huge responsibility, and we've given it to them. And it's important that we keep them accountable, yes. But we also have a great responsibility to our country. We have a responsibility not just to our country, because the idea of having responsibility to a flag may seem disingenuous, but we have a responsibility to love our neighbors. And of course, people are probably in the chat. I don't see the chat right now, but you're probably thinking, man, this guy has really turned into a hippie real quick. Man, this guy is now talking about free love and all of that. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about love as an act of service. We have a responsibility to serve our neighbors. A responsibility that I believe comes from God, because I'm a Christian. I follow this guy, Jesus. You may have heard of him. But we all have a responsibility to love our neighbors in service. We have a responsibility to pick each other up when they're being put down. We have a responsibility to, instead of yelling at each other with the goal of winning the social media sphere, winning a debate by typing paragraphs on Facebook, instead using our platforms and using our influence to create a positive impact. I hope to do that with this show. I hope to do that in my everyday life. I hope that we as Americans, not just that, we as people can learn to be fountains and not drains. Great, amazing pioneers. Hard to deal with baggage. How do we reconcile that? By sharing the baggage a little bit from each of us, so that maybe the load is not as heavy.